Natalie with the Fifth Journey, and this is kind of an impromptu video. I am making these cooling neck wraps, and I thought it would be fun just to shoot a quick video on how to make them. So they've been around for 20-30 years, the cooling neck wraps, and this one, if you can tell by the fabric, it has gold stars and moons and suns on it. This is from the 90s. I have had this since the 90s and it still works. These things last forever. And they are filled with a non-toxic polyacrylamide, if I'm saying that correctly, or water beads, and they absorb water. So they're used for like plants and things like that, but you can use them in this. There's different applications, but they absorb water and they offer a cooling effect when they are full, and then you just lay them out to dry and you can reuse them over and over and over again. So I'm going to be making the last little bit and walking through how to do it. If you want to use, this is the Miracle Grow one, you can find in the plant section, but this package it's a 12-ounce package. This will make 50 of them, so you do not need this much, or you can get this and use it in your plants and just use a little bit. So you don't need a whole lot. I do have some extra supplies here. You don't have to have all these things. You don't need it. So fabric-wise, you need to have, for one of them, you need to have something that is about 40 inches long and 4.5 inches wide. Make sure you have pre-washed and dried it, especially if you're having any reds, you don't want any bleeding, but make sure you have pre-washed and dried it. So this, for example, I've got a bolt of fabric here. They had some on sale. The width, when it's doubled up, this is perfect for the length of what you want. 1 yard, which I have cut off because I only have enough of the beads to make 8 more. 1 yard will make 8 of those. So I have not ironed it yet. I will do that next. But you just need, like I said, 40 inches of the fabric, 40 inches long, and you need to have at least 4.5 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this up. I'm going to fold it in quarters. You can use scissors. Make sure you have good cutting scissors. I have notes on mine so my husband and my kids don't take them and use them for something else. But I have a cutting board, I've got a rotary blade, and then this really cool thing. I love this. It's by June Taylor. It's a shape cut, but it's got 1/2 inch increments, so you can just stick your rotary blade in there and cut. I love this. So let me go ahead, fold this up, and get cutting. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, but these are super easy to make, and they're so wonderful to have. They really, really are. The nice thing about these is it doesn't have to be perfect. Sewing is very forgiving with a lot of applications, things like this. So I've got some rough ends here, so I'm just going to zip those off really quick. And then I'm going to cut. So I'll cut my 0, then I'm going to go at my 4.5, and then I'm going to go at my 9 inch, pop those off, pull it forward, and do it again. So there, I have my little 4.5 inch piece of fabric. And like I said with the ironing, we will do that after I put the first stitch in. That is all the fabric I have left off of that yard. So that's not much scrap at all. And these would be great as gifts or like, holiday gifts. If you have people that, farmers market people, people you buy produce from, that would be a great gift for them. If you have, more than what you want to make, if you have more fabric or whatever you want to make. So I'm just going to cut off the end. So this is, I have it folded in half, 20 inches, so that'd be 40 inches. And eyeballing that. So do that really quick to all 8 of these. Okay, I have that part done. Now I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and lengthwise. We're going to wrong sides together, and we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I was thinking earlier, because I've got candy on the brain and I could not think of seam allowance, I was thinking headspace. I'm like, that's not right. So you're going to fold it lengthwise, and you're going to put the wrong sides together, and you're going to sew along all of these with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So let's go do that real quick. Done, I'm going to go ahead and separate them, and I just showed a little clip of tools that you can use to turn them right side out. That's the next step. The first one is one of the large safety pins. This is super easy to use. The other tool, I don't know what this is called. This was my mom's, and we used to make scrunchies when I was in grade school, junior high, and this is just something that we use. And again, there's something else that lasts forever, but if you don't have that tool, then a safety pin works really well. So we're gonna do the safety pin first. This works so well, like if you need to put a drawstring back in some pants or a dress or something. It's just so easy just to use one of these extra large safety pins. So you're just going to, I kind of like to go along the seam edge. So you're gonna slip it inside, pull it up through the seam. Don't poke yourself, close it off, and then you're just gonna push it in on itself. So you're gonna feed it through. And it's a lot easier to have, let me redo that, to have the fat end down. I should have done that instead. Try that again. Okay, fat end goes down into the hole. And then you're just gonna press it through. And you can feel that and you can grab it. So then once you get, it's kind of bunched up like that, carefully, you don't want to yank on it because it can pull the fabric through on that end, and just slide it through. So same thing, like if I was putting elastic or in some sweatpants, like I said, or you pull your cord out of your hoodie. This is a great thing to use. Same thing, you just feed it through, super easy, and it's fast. And then I'll show you how to use the other one here in a second. And then we'll go down and iron them. While I'm doing this, I want to talk a little bit about the sectioning, because the one that I have had forever, that one just has one big pocket, and see, just pull it through, super easy. And I'll do this to the other ones. So the one that I have had forever, I have a bunch of other ones that I've made through the years, and that one just has one pocket. So it has the sewing on the ends, and then it has a seam here and a seam here. And so all those little crystals are spread throughout here. The thing I don't like about it is you end up with it kind of being uneven, and then when you have it wrapped around your neck, gravity tends to pull the full beads down. So I've started making 4 channels that really help keep everything nice and even. Okay, so the other, and I'll explain that more in here in a second, but the other tool, you're gonna slip it inside, and it's got this little ring on it that you push up and it tightens it closed. So I'm going to put the end of it on the inside and then feed some of the fabric into the teeth. You wanna make sure this is really, really tight, because if you don't have it tight, sometimes you lose it halfway down and then you have to undo it by hand. So in that case, sometimes the safety pin is better. Otherwise, same thing, you're just gonna feed it through, push it down, and then turn it right side out. So with the channels, it tends to keep everything nice and even around your neck. And I like to have a few of them, like if I'm not working in the yard or I'm doing an event that's really hot, I like to have a few of them, and I keep one of them in a cooler, and that way I can swap it out. So when, you know, maybe it's super hot and you're not really getting as much cooling as you feel, then, you know, grab the other one, put it on, and then put that one back in the cooler. And it makes everything, I mean, I'm in Kansas, and when it's August and we're dry and we have no rain, but it's still humid and it's 100 degrees, and you have to do things that just definitely make things a lot more bearable. So let me finish up these, and then we will go down and iron them. We're gonna iron them. So I am actually going to be using, or putting, the seam in the middle. So I'm not going to put the seam on an edge, because when those beads expand, sometimes it presses that open, and it can kind of make a weak point. If maybe something is wrong with the stitching, it could pull out, and I just find that having the seam right in the middle makes a much more secure pocket for those beads. especially if you're using it and somebody squeezes them or something, because you don't want to squeeze these when they're full. So I feel it just makes a much more secure neck wrap. So I'm going to go to the end. I'm using my little countertop ironing board here. Just kind of eyeballing it. This makes it a lot easier to sew. You don't have to do this, but I just find it makes it a lot easier to sew the next parts. I don't know if I said this earlier, but you want to make sure you're using cotton or flannel on this. I hope I said earlier. I don't know if I did. Okay, now I'm going to fold it in half and just press the seam here, because that's going to make it easier for me when I sew the next part. So I'm going to do this to the rest of them. So that little seam on the end, like I said, will help that halfway point, because that's where I'm going to put my first stitch for when I start filling up those pockets. Now that that first part is done, I have a seam right down the middle. Make sure that you do back stitch so it's nice and strong on that seam. We're going to put the first set of those beads in and get some type of dish that you can use. And I like to use a funnel, but like a little tiny funnel. You don't need one, but you need a 1/4 teaspoon measuring spoon. You're going to be putting a heaping teaspoon in. A 1/2 teaspoon is really a little bit too much because you don't want to overfill them. So I like to do about a heaping 1/4 teaspoon. And then what you're going to do, so you iron that, you're going to press against the opposite way and pull it down so all those beads right at that seam, because you want them to be down there. Now be careful you're not tipping it, because they're going to pour out. You want to have them as close to that seam as possible so they're not in the way when you're going to be sewing. So I do one end, and then I grab that other end and put them in the other. Sorry about the birds. And do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead, fill up all these, and sometimes if I have something, I'll hang it on there, but make sure that you keep that down because you don't want those falling anywhere. When you go on to sew the next part, you're going to sew 4 inches. No, yes, 4 inches away from that. So you're going to have that filled. You're going to sew 4 inches. And if you're only making one, do 4 inches and then flip to do the other side. Or if you're doing a row of several of them, do them all on one side and then do the other to save time, or whatever works for you. Whatever you want to do, whatever works best for you on that. And I put down like a little piece of tape. Well, on my sewing machine, I have one of those little extenders on there. So I put a little piece of tape to mark it so I'm not having to pin anything. So then I can line up that center seam on there, and then I know that's where I want to be. It is 4.5 inches. 4.5 inches, not 4. 4.5. First 2 pockets are done, and I've gone ahead and snipped off all the extra threads. So we have that middle seam, and then we have the 2 pockets here. It doesn't seem like there's very many beads in there, and that is okay. Again, you do not want to overfill them at all. So right about a 1/4 teaspoon, do not overfill them. It doesn't seem like much, but those things really, really expand. So now we're just going to repeat on all of them. So we're going to, again, do one end, fill it up, bring it down, do the other one, fill it up, bring it down, and then you're going to sew 4.5 inches, not 4. I have my little note here that I've had forever, and I saw 4, and anyway, 4 pockets, 4.5 inches apart. And When we go to sew the next part, we are going to close off the ends. And if you've noticed, I haven't used any pins or anything like that. It's super easy. You don't need very many supplies for this. So once I get done sewing that next section, we're just going to fold in the ends, and I'll try to show a little bit better. So you're just going to fold in the ends and then just sew right on the edge, and then they're done. And I'll come back to talk a little bit more about a few things when I'm done filling and sewing those, but they're super easy peasy to make. I'm done with the sewing on these, and as you saw, I did them kind of one after another. So instead of, I guess one at a time rather, not one after another. So I would sew those last two pockets, and then I would sew the ends before moving on to the next one. And you can do whatever, you know, is easier for you. But with these, you know, when you're using them, you want to give probably 3 hours or so soaking in water, clean water, to activate those beads. I like to do overnight. So if I know I have something going on that next day that I'll need them, I'll do several of them, keep them in a tub, and have them ready to go that I can swap out. And like I was thinking about earlier, my kids do 4-H, they show goats, and these are super helpful when they're waiting, because our fair is the first week of August, and that's really hot. And they have to wear jeans and they have to look really nice. So this is a great way to keep them cool while they're waiting. But there's so many different applications for these. So as far as, I didn't talk about this earlier, but cleaning them, obviously you can't throw them in the wash. So if you're doing something like yard work or mowing, I would recommend hand washing them while they're full, hand washing them with mild soap and water, and then letting them dry like normal. You don't want to have them wet for too long, or you don't want to have them, say, throw them in a tub or a cooler and just let them sit there for days, because that's going to get really gross and you're going to have to throw them away. So you want to make sure that they do have a chance to dry out, to be in a clean environment when you're not using them. Something else you could do, so like if you're not doing something really dirty, there's going to be grime on them, you can spray them down with some isopropyl alcohol, because that'll help clean and sanitize them. But these, you know, with proper care, these will last decades. They really will. And they're great to have quite a few of them. So I hope this helps you make your own or make some for gifts, but they will last a really long time. I'll come back with a photo of one of them filled up, but that's all there is to it. Thank you. And here is a finished one that I went ahead and soaked. It only took about half an hour, but see how much that puffs up, and those really swell up with the water, and it's ready to go. And that really nice seam there. So like I said, when the seam is on the side, it has a tendency to kind of open and squish, especially when it's right there. So putting the seam there makes it a great spot for that. So this is ready to go, and this will last for hours. And like I said, I like to have a couple of them, but this is such a great thing for those hot months. Hope you enjoy it.